contrary to the look that you saw on television of him, this big tattooed freak that looked like he could kick your ass and could kick your ass.
Yeah, he was
Bam
a big
Bam was a
guy.
gentleman.
Yeah.
He was a sweet, sweet guy that really loved the business, loved performing, and really enjoyed what he did. You know, and also enjoyed teaching those of us what he had to teach. And, you know, for me, working with Bam Bam Bigelow, both as a partner in the Triple Threat and as an opponent in 1997 at the November to Remember in Pittsburgh, you know, I would rank him very high, if not the top. For me, I feel at this point, looking backward, that was the best I was in my business. You know, that was Shane Douglas at his best, and Bam Bam Bigelow pretty damn good, if not his best. And, you know, what we did was special. It was something that today people say can't be done. You know, a small third-tier company coming in and putting on a pay-per-view and captivating an audience. Bam Bam Bigelow and Shane Douglas did that, and I give the credit to him. You know, that he was the guy that drove that match because he was such a believable force in the ring and such a special performer. You know, you hear today, the best big man in the business, best big man in the business. Scott Bigelow was, hands down, the best big man in the business, and I've seen nobody surpass that to date.
Well, we got another in-studio question they would like to ask you directly.
Yeah, because franchise, this gentleman has sat here from the moment you've been on the show and just listened to everything you had to say, and now he's got a question for you, so we're going to let him ask it.
He is sitting next to the speaker, actually, to hear it. So here he is.
All right, it's a pleasure, Mr. Douglas. My name is Bobby Dream. I just wanted to ask you, because it was some of the most entertaining segments that I watched on ECW television were your interactions with Rick Rude, and I just wanted to know what it was like working with Ravishing Rick Rude.
Great question. Rick Rude was probably the most intense individual I'd ever met in the business. You know, he was, you know, it's easy to sit here today and talk about hindsight and, you know, put myself in that same time frame as two different things. But looking backward and talking about it, Rick was very serious about his business. And I think it's something our business needs a big dose of today. It needs a big dose of people taking it that serious again to bring it back. You know, we've watched the rise of the MMA and the UFCs. I would put Rick Rude in 50% against almost anybody in the MMA or UFC. And I don't say that lightly. I don't mean to detract from any of those guys. They're great at what they do. Rick Rude was an incredibly intense, tough, damn good at what he did, and believed in it. You know, and you know, those are the things that today I think we've ceded away to those other genres, which are great. They're very entertaining. But, you know, today you don't have those Rick Rudes in the dressing room in professional wrestling that are compelling enough to sit and watch and see. To say, well, if I got my choice between a WWE pay-per-view or UFC, we see what the numbers say. Rick Rude was incredibly intense and could back up what he said, every bit of it. I'll give you a funny anecdote about Rick Rude. When I was in my younger days, we were wrestling him and Vader. Me and Sting were wrestling him and Vader. And I think Atlanta. I'm not quite. I can't recall the exact town. But we were in the ring, Rick and I, and doing some back and forth wrestling. And he finally, you know, when he wanted to, grabbed me and took hold and had command of the ring. And he started calling something to me, and I couldn't quite understand what he was saying because Rick was so intense that everything he said was through clenched teeth, and it was very difficult to understand. But, you know, I mean, he was just so intense on everything. And when he came to ECW, the night that he premiered in ECW, I didn't even know he was there. You know, Paul brought him in extremely kayfabe. and I saw a guy walking around the back with a police riot helmet on and a long trench coat, and I had no idea who it was. And when it was finally revealed to me who it was, I was stunned, that it was Rick Rude here working for us, but also enamored by what Rick brought to the table, because he was very much one of the people that I looked to as I was coming up in the business in some small way to try to take parts of his character and put into my character. Rick Rude was something special, and maybe it's a once in a lifetime, maybe it's a once in a generation type of character. Rick Rude to me was personification of everything that was great about professional wrestling in its heyday, and the absence of Rick Rude is a huge portion of what's wrong with our business today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right, Shane, we got another question. Greatest moment in ECW?
I get asked that a lot, and it's for me a very difficult question to answer because I was there for almost the entire run. From the time we went from Tri-State to Extreme, from Eastern Championship to Extreme Championship, and was figured in a large way in the company. I guess I always try to boil it down to a couple, because I had quite a lot of great experiences there. I mean, first of all, the entire run in ECW was special. It really was, and I say that as a guy that's been in business for 32 years now, and looking back and saying, what I've seen in the business and the good and the bad of it, my 7+ years in ECW were special. I looked forward to going to work. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I worked my ass off for the company. I really, really believed in what we were doing, and I hope that plays part into what the legacy of what ECW left behind. I can tell you this: for guys like me, when we hear fans chanting ECW, we take that as a badge of honor. That what we did, even though it may not have worked at the time financially, the legacy is what it is and can't be changed. I don't believe that fans are chanting ECW because they're being paid by somebody out of the business usually would do, or whatever. Our business, ECW's business, was predicated on going out there and delivering the goods. And I was always so proud as the champion of that company when I would sit back and watch the Tazes and the Sabus and the Terry Funks and the Chris Candidas and the Bam Bam Bigelows and go through the entourage of talent there. As the champion of that company, I thought, my God, I'm the most blessed guy in the world. To be able to sit at the head as a champion for a dressing room like this, to me, was like putting it on autopilot. I felt very blessed. I had a lot of great, times there. One of my great memories of ECW is the night that I threw the belt in Terry Funk's face. That we set that whole angle up. One of the funny footnotes to that night was, if you go back and watch that footage, we cut it. We filmed it in 2 or 3 different scenes, and the scene where I threw the belt in Terry's face, and then the second scene where we're being pulled apart. If you watch closely, you'll see that I'm scissored on the floor, and I can't get. And I'm shooting to try to get up. I can't get up, and the person that shot on me was Sherry Martel. Sherry was, she was one of a kind. I mean, she was such a sweet girl and such a special talent, and she so loved the business that, for me it was just a great honor looking back and being able to work with her, because, she really brought a pedigree to business with her, and but she was the one that had shot on me, and I couldn't, if I wanted to, get up. Obviously, my matches with Terry Funk, with Sabu, and with Taz all rate very highly, because all of them have some substance to what ECW was and what it became. For me, I look at it, when people say to me, well, were you a great champion? I look at it like I was very lucky and blessed to have such great talent to work with. When Taz came up to the level that he came up to, when he became the Tasmaniac, when he became the suplex machine and FTW and all that, he had really taken the time to learn his craft. And hats off to him. For me, it was a special trip that I'll never forget as long as I live, having been part of that and having partaken in it. And that's part of what I'm trying to do with resurrecting the legacy somewhat, not to give me or Taz or Sabu or any of us another go-round, but to, in fact, let the legacy live and breathe. Let this current generation of wrestling fans see what was capable out of that company and out of that legacy, and see where it goes.
Well, Shane, we got another question or two, and then we're gonna get back to FWS.
FSW,
FSW business. A gentleman has. What does it feel like to be the first ECW champion?
Well, like I said earlier, it's something that for me I'll never forget, and we'll always. First of all, I don't take the credit for all of that. I mean, I look and I'm smart enough to know, and especially after having run my own companies, know that what happened at that, that I first grabbed the title, was that a hell of a lot of people behind the scenes had put a crap load of work into building that company into something that anybody would even give a damn about. So, oftentimes, and I'm seeing it now as a booker for Extreme Rising, that, and I don't mean to detract from the wrestlers whatsoever. I mean, the wrestlers are the product, obviously. But the wrestlers, it amazes me how many of my cohorts in my class, in my generation, have no idea what goes into producing a wrestling show. Where, the numbers that come in, the average wrestler, me included, when I would walk into a house and see 1,500 people sitting there, or better, would automatically think, man, they're making a ton of money, and this is great. They're doing fantastic. The difference is, where that thought is predicated on a 1993, 4, 5, 6, or 7 paradigm in the dollars and cents arena. In other words, what a show cost to put on back then is not the same thing it costs today. To give you one quick example, the Golden Dome, where the 1997 November to Remember was held with me and Bam Bam, we paid for a 2-day rental for that building, I think $2,400 at the time. Currently, that building costs close to $6,700 for rent, fees, insurance, and all them things that go into it. So triple the cost. Airfares are much more expensive than they used to be. Hotel rooms are double or triple the expense they used to be. So to put a show on today, comparing, if a show drew 1,400 people, we'll say 15, or we'll round it off and say 1,500 people in 1997, in 2013, all those numbers having changed and grown exponentially from what they used to be, it's a much more expensive endeavor to run today. And, I'm finding out as we go along. That's part of the reason why I'm still thrilled that a year later, Extreme Rising is still in the game. And still, we've got some very big deals that we're working on. Now, my experience is deals come and go. You get your desk, you get a phone call, you have a huge opportunity that's offered to you, and you do your best to try to bring it home, and it doesn't come through. Well, there's no time to sulk about it. You have to move on to the very next deal and keep trying. The fact that we're still in the game a year later and have presented some pretty damn good shows in my case, from my standpoint, last year, made some mistakes along the way, but for a company that's just starting out, no shame in that whatsoever. But the fact that where we sit, there's things that are outstanding right now that I wish I could talk about and don't have the opening to talk about yet. But if I were a betting guy, I would much more bet on Extreme Wrestling.